We're going to go ahead and call to order the zoning board meeting for this evening. Shall we go ahead and do a roll call, please?
Yes. Ken Sanderson.
Here.
Scott Ballantine.
Here.
Fred Wingert.
Here.
Rod Richardson.
Here.
And Ken Klingensmith.
Here.
Thank you. We do have a quorum.
Can you go ahead and read the statement of the hybrid meeting for us,
Yes.
please?
This meeting is now being recorded in the board hearing room with the zoning board members attending in person. There's also an option for virtual attendance on Zoom webinar. For Zoom participants wishing to speak, please use the raise hand function in the Zoom app at the start of the agenda item on which you desire to comment. Comments will be received from in-person attendees first, followed by Zoom participants. When it is your turn to speak, the moderator will recognize you by the name or phone number used to join the Zoom webinar, and your microphone will be unmuted. Please state your name and the community where you reside for the record, followed by your comments. All public speakers will be limited to three minutes. If you have trouble with Zoom, please call 913-715-9666. Board members, staff, and presenters, please state your name every time you begin talking, and please speak into the microphone so your comments can be transcribed for the record. This is a public meeting. We are presenting live and recording the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you for that. I appreciate it. In front of us, we have the agenda for this evening. Is there any revisions, changes that need to be made? Hearing none, we'll move forward with the agenda. Any disclosures of conflict or interest or internal contacts or discussions?
Mr. Chairman, I will refrain from discussing or voting on the 199th Street and Switzer Road application. I've done business with the applicant.
Okay, thank you. Any others? Hearing none, we'll go ahead and approve the minutes of the December 3rd meeting that are included in your packet. Do we have a motion to approve those minutes?
So moved.
Fred Wingert, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We'll go ahead and approve the minutes, and we'll move on to the Board of County Commissioners reports and Planning Commission actions. Sean.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman, board members. Sean Pendley, County Planning Staff. For Board of County Commissioners actions, there was a final plat that was considered by this board at the December zoning board meeting for a property at 20511 Flum Road. That application was recommended for approval by this board, and that item is scheduled for final action by the Board of County Commissioners for the meeting tomorrow morning, January 8th, here in this meeting room. There are no other Board of County Commissioners actions at this time. However, I could give an update on zoning board consolidation, since we did give an update at that item at the last zoning board meeting. At this time, we are planning on giving an update to the Board of County Commissioners at their Committee of the Whole meeting on next Thursday, January 15th. So we'll give an update from the comments that were received by both the East and West zoning boards. We received very good comments from both boards. We will be forwarding those comments to the Board of County Commissioners and await for direction from the board on their preference for what to do for the new consolidated zoning board. We expect that could be brought back to the Board of County Commissioners for a public hearing in February. So we would anticipate at the soonest that it could happen, a new consolidated zoning board would be in effect and appointed would be March. So we do have another regularly scheduled meeting of this board and also the West zoning board for the meetings in February. So we'll be seeing you for sure at least next month, and then thereafter we'll provide another update next month on zoning board consolidation. Sure. And if you like, I can continue with Planning Commission actions. There were no actions from the meeting in December. We did have a Planning Commission meeting, and at that time, we just provided a preliminary review of draft regulations that we're preparing for the short-term rental regulations. The Planning Commission had some comments on that, and we have scheduled a public hearing for the next Planning Commission meeting on January 27th, where staff will present draft regulations for short-term rental regulations, and that will be considered for recommendation. Following the Planning Commission's review and recommendation, that would be forwarded on the Board of County Commissioners for possible adoption. We would anticipate at the soonest would be at the February meeting of the Board of County Commissioners. With that, happy to answer any questions.
Staff? All right, then we'll go ahead before and move to the business before the board. Application A, it's application E25530 REZ. That has been requested to have a continuance until the February meeting. Do we have a motion to continue that?
So moved.
Second,
Fred Winker, second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, that application will have a continuance to the February 4th meeting. We'll move to application number 2. It's application E25526 REZ and E25527 PPAU for the rezoning and preliminary plat at 5100 West 207th Street. Michelle, if you'll give staff presentation.
Good evening, Michelle Leininger, County Planning Staff. This is a request for a rezoning and preliminary plat for Wilshire Estates. This is an area of the subject property outlined in blue. It's located east of Knoll Avenue and north of 207th Street. Property is 53.64 acres and currently zoned RUR rural. The property is currently developed with a single-family home, 3 accessory buildings, and a few pond areas. Here's the zoning of the surrounding area of the subject property. Again, the property is currently zoned RUR and is proposed to be rezoned to PRLD, which is a planned low-density residential district, which requires a minimum nominal lot size of 3 acres. Properties to the east are similar to the subject property in size and zoning. Properties to the west and south are zoned for RUR and PRLD, with lots ranging from 1 acre to 7 acres in size. The proposed zoning is compatible with the character and zoning of the area and consistent with the infill low-density residential recommendation in the Blue Valley Plan. This is the proposed preliminary plat. It is for 14 3-acre residential lots, 5 different tracks, a new street, and 2 cul-de-sacs, and a future connection to the east. North is on your left on this, east is to the top. The existing house will be kept and the accessory buildings are proposed to be removed. The minimum infrastructure requirements and plat requirements are met with the exception of street spacing, abutting street being constructed to Type B collector standards, stormwater analysis, and infrastructure. These updates are addressed with the recommended stipulations of approval. Here is the plat exception. The request is for the street spacing requirements. The requirement in the regulations is for 1,320 feet between streets. The applicant is requesting 576 feet. And as you can see, it's the spacing that's between the proposed street and Briar Street, which is to the east. Public Works staff has reviewed the request and site distance and have no objections to the plat exceptions. So staff does recommend the plat exception for street spacing. We did receive 2 comments regarding the project. You have a printout of the one in writing we received, which is not in support of the project. And then I did talk to somebody on the phone about the project, and they were in support. Staff does recommend approval of the rezoning from RUR to PRLD. And then the second motion, staff recommends approval of the preliminary plat for 14 residential lots to be called Wilshire Estate, with stipulations outlined in the staff report. You do have one slight modification to one of the stipulations. Under recommendation for the preliminary plat, stipulation 1D. We're requesting just to remove "and pond" in that stipulation. And that's okay with both the applicant and Public Works staff. I have 2 recommended motions for you to use if you see fit. We just recommend including that slight change to the 1 stipulation with the recommendation for the preliminary plat. I can answer any questions, and the applicant is also here.
Thank you, Michelle. For clarification, the stipulation change, is that on page 11, item number 21F?
D.
D?
Page 11, recommendation number 2, stipulation 1D, just to remove "and pond."
Gotcha. Thank you. Before we go ahead and get started, the cul-de-sacs that are represented are full-size cul-de-sacs that we would recognize in other subdivisions?
Yes, they meet the requirements for both Public Works and what would be typically required for fire access.
And this is Ken again, and the property that is PRLD that we're looking to rezone to, the lots that are south of 207th, are those 3 minimum acres as well? The ones there south on the bottom of the screen?
Sure. Those ones that are PRLD to the south are between 4 and 5 acres. So they're not at the minimum, but the same zoning. The properties to the west range from 4.9, 1, 3.6, 6.8, so that's a variety.
And to confirm, in the PLRD, the minimum lot size is the 3 acres?
Nominal 3
Nominal
acres.
3 acres,
Yes.
excuse me.
Rod Richardson, could you pull a plat back up there? The actual plat. This is a question about fire, and I assume the fire folks didn't comment negatively, or maybe this is because there's going to be a connection eventually up north, but in the event that the single entrance happened to be blocked, how would you get fire access into this subdivision?
It's similar to any other cul-de-sac subdivision. It's very, very, very rare that it would happen, but that is the only access in and out.
Okay, but eventually it's anticipated that this will be connected up. I think you said that's
Yeah. Connection
Down
to the east, so it's
Okay.
right here. It would go to the property to the east, which is roughly the same size as this property.
Okay. So, but at present, there is no specific county regulation that would preclude a single entrance exit subdivision at this point, is there?
We do have standards for cul-de-sac lengths. This exceeds that, but it's planned to be extended in the future. So that is kind of a holding pattern situation, but their cul-de-sacs are allowed.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman and Mr. Richardson, Sean Poundley, planning staff, I'll also elaborate on what Michelle had mentioned there. That is correct. The zoning regulations do not preclude or prevent one access to a subdivision, provided it meets all the regulations. There are building and fire codes that do apply, though, for number of residential units with only one access. This meets that requirement. I believe the number is 30 units or more, requires 2 forms of access, 2 points of access. So this does meet building and fire codes and the regulations with the exception as provided with the length of the cul-de-sac.
This is Fred Wigert. I had the same question because I thought when we approved the Lock Lloyd that was on the Kansas side, we required them to have an entrance. I know there was like a knockbox, but was that maybe because it was gated?
Oh, are you referring to the Lock Lloyd development?
Remember that?
Yeah, there was no other access, I believe, at that south end, and that was an emergency access needed due to that length, because that was an exceptionally long one, because they crossed over the state line. If you remember, part of that subdivision, actually, it went over into.
So that was because of the number of homes.
Yeah,
Okay.
so the number of homes and the number of lots, I think that was over 20 lots. Yeah, that's correct.
And then I had a question about when it goes over the water, what is that proposed? Is that like a culvert or is that a bridge?
I will let that applicant answer that.
Of the water.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
We'll ask the applicant on that one. Okay.
You've answered my question on the fire access. I assume this is not a gated community. Because I know in the past, we've had situations where we got into this, only they were longer cul-de-sacs that created some issues. Obviously, it's always raises a question if you can't get through with the fire engines, although they're pretty good at pushing stuff out of the way. Hard to imagine what could occur, but you never know. But I think it's worth considering. I mean, it's something that, as the new zoning code is looked at, that's another area that's worthy of some consideration. But it sounds like it meets the current requirements, so.
Any other questions of staff at the time? Ken have any there?
I've got one, Ken.
Okay, please, go ahead.
Scott Ballantyne, on page 6, under roads, B, I guess it'd be D, subsection D. I notice on there, the application does not meet this requirement on D. Is that being addressed, or is that because 207th has plans to be expanded in the future? What's going on with that one?
That is included as a stipulation of approval with the fact that they have to expand their half of the street to meet that standard.
On the one side?
On the one side.
Okay. Thank you.
This is Ken. Has there been consideration to have turning lanes into the subdivision to the south and this new subdivision to the north? Was there discussion for the developers to get turning lanes put in there?
They did traffic studies, and the traffic studies did not recommend the turn lanes based on the traffic analysis.
Okay, thank you. Any final questions? Perfect. All right, we'll go ahead and conclude the staff report and ask that the applicant have any words or comments to present. Thank you, Harold.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and board members. My name is Harold Phelps, Phelps Engineering. I am representing the Ashners this evening, and I'm really proud to be representing Jeff and Chris this evening on this project. This is their first project in the county. I've been working with Jeff for almost 50 years, so I've had a long history with Jeff Ashner and the family. They have done the Wilshire, the Berkshire, a number of projects up north, and look at bringing that same quality of development to the south. And with that, I'll just make a quick presentation. I don't have a lot of things to add this evening. Staff has done a great job of presenting the project. But I did want to give you a little feel of what their plan is. So you can see from the colored rendering, we are preserving the lake. We're going to make some minor modifications to it. But you can also see that, and I guess, can I draw on here? Nope.
Yeah, you just touch the screen.
Touch it?
Up in the corner? Right.
Just a little. Okay, great. Thanks. All right, so if we look at a couple of things that we've made specifically for this project that you probably don't or haven't seen in some other projects in the county that have developed. One is significant landscaping along 207th Street. So they will do significant landscaping similar to what you see in the Overland Park Leawood area. Another item is the buffer. So we've actually kept the road right off of the road so that we can save and preserve the existing trees that are around the projects. You can see we're also preserving trees on both sides. We have specifically added some curvilinear to the street so that it's not a straight street. That helped actually with our exception. The exception, on the road exception, if we really can't meet the road requirements anywhere, we put it on this property. But at this location, we feel like, and staff agreed, that this was the best location for it. It's at the top of the hill. It's where the existing driveway is. We meet the site distance requirement for Briar to the south. So this all made a lot of sense. We are providing connectivity to the east so that when and if the future, available property to the east develops, that we're connecting to that and we're not creating a dead-end situation. I know we're going to have some arrows on here, but that kind of works out good too. So, the question on the island, Mr. Richardson, I think was, we didn't really address it. It is a single entrance, but we are putting an island on the entry. So if there is an accident at the entry, it should only block one lane. So we should have access into the project. The other thing that we have not typically seen in the county are amenities. And this project will have an amenity in this area that will be lake access for all the residents. So just because you don't live or abut the lake, you'll still have access to it for all the residents. So just some of the things that probably giving a little more consideration than some of the other projects that have developed in the county, which set it apart. The only other thing that I'd like to add is on the fire. I think Sean did cover this. So International Fire Code is a maximum 30 lots on a single entrance unless there's planned for future development. So that varies. Overland Park is 50. So they've adopted a number of 50, but I believe Johnson County is International Fire Code. So that's 30 lots. So eventually we see there's 3 or 4 tracks that are to the east of us that someday most likely will develop, and this will all interconnect and tie back down into 207th Street, and there'll be additional access. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you for that.
Mr. Chairman, Rod Richardson, just out of curiosity, and you may not know, so if you don't, but I'll just ask out of curiosity, do you have a vision for the size of the homes that would be located on these lots?
Yeah, obviously I can look to Jeff and Chris, and I know what kind of homes they build. So they are both builders, and not to say that they'll be the exclusive builders, but they'll all be 5,000, 6,000, 7,000 square feet.
Right.
They'll be substantial houses.
Right. And the only reason I ask that is I think it's becoming evident that there are more and more I'll just call them substantial homes. And there's one next to me that's 12,100 and some square feet. That's a rarity, but it's becoming evident there are more and more. And having been involved with the fire district for 25 years off and on, it raises the question of the kind of needs the fire districts have for the type of equipment necessary in the event of a disastrous fire or fire control or whatever. So I just think that's something that at some point the county's going to have to look at with reference to the fire districts, or the fire districts have to look at to really assess with these really nice homes. Not that the others aren't nice, but the size of these homes raises some of those issues. And this among many, many others is beginning to raise those questions above zero to a more significant level. So that's the only reason I ask.
No, appreciate that.
Did you want to ask about the water?
On where it crosses the water, Fred Wingert, where it crosses the water, is that a bridge or is that a culvert, or how's that being handled?
And I apologize for not answering that. I didn't take the note to address that specifically, but that will end up being a pipe culvert. And we don't know exactly how we address that. Sometimes the Ashners kind of make it look like a bridge crossing. So it might look kind of like a bridge, but it'll be a culvert.
Thank you.
Any other questions of the applicant? All right, hearing none, thank you, Harold, for that, and thank you, Michelle, for your report. We'll go ahead and open up public comment section at this time. Is there anyone here that would like to speak on this application? Is there anyone online that would like to speak on this application? No. I would like for reference on record that we did get a communication today that a family that Bernita Engelken, Engelken, and since we only have one, I'll go ahead and read it real quick. We were unable to attend tonight's meeting, but wanted to express our feelings about the request to redone our area by 5100 West 207th and possibly the 14 residential lots. We live just to the west of the property and do not like the idea at all. We've been here since 1987, have moved out of the city to enjoy the open spaces. I hope our opinion is considered. Roads are narrow. Putting houses, that many houses, certainly would replace our freedom of space. We love this area. I thought 5 acres was the requirement to build on in Johnson County. Thank you, Linus and Bernita Ingleton. And then they stated their address is 5336 West 207th Street. So I did want to get that on record as well. Hearing no other seeing no one here nor on Zoom for public comment, we'll go ahead and close the public comment section and review this. Is there any further questions, discussion?
Mr. Chairman, the property has a history that a few of us are aware of that goes back several years. I think it's a great use of the property. I think it's been well designed. The builders, the fact that this organization is moving into the county, I think is a really good thing. I've actually lived in one of their developments and it was very well done, so I fully support it. I think it would be a nice addition to the county. I do have a similar concern about the fire access, but I think it's been addressed and I support it.
Anyone else? Rod, anything?
No, I agree. I think all the questions have been answered to my satisfaction. Looks like it'd be a great, glad to have these developers out here, and I'm glad they chose a site for their inaugural development. Looks like a very nice one. Hopefully, my concern is always, fire considerations and worst case scenarios, but you've got a split entrance, as Mr. Phelps pointed out, which, is certainly comforting in that regard. So I have a problem with it at all. So I'll make the motion initially on the zoning to approve the rezoning from RUR.
I want to make one comment
Oh,
before you
go
do that. Ken Klingensmith, just real quick. One of the things that I'm always concerned of is zoning down from an RUR. Because we are a PRLD below or in the south, I think this is consistent for that. As well, we have approved further up Mission toward 199th. We have a project up there that got approved, recommended for approval. That's a PRN2 that's even requires smaller. So I believe that from a rezoning perspective, I know I'm the one that always is most hesitant, but because of those two reasons, that's why I feel comfortable on the rezoning for this, and also agree that this is a good use of the space. And meets the criteria for that. And then I just wanted to check real quick. Does Ken Sanderson have any comments he'd like to make?
No, I fully support the plan. The Ashers have been, as mentioned, in the county and the city, over in Parkland, excellent all over. They do an outstanding with Berkshire, Wilshire, all the above. I fully support the plan as presented.
Okay, thanks.
All right, this is Rod Richardson. I will submit the motion. I move to approve the rezoning from RUR Rural District to PRLD Planned Residential Low Density District for 53.63 acres located at 5100 West 207th Street.
Scott Ballantyne, I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
All approved? Do you need the second one?
The second motion, Rod Richardson, again, I would move to approve a preliminary plat for 14 residential lots to be known as Wilshire Estates and one plat exception regarding street spacing, subject to the stipulations recommended by staff and listed in the staff report.
Scott Valentine, I'll second that as well.
All in favor?
Been here.
Aye.
1 second.
Hold on.
Discussion before approval? Oh,
If
the
you
pond.
would amend your motion to include the amendment of stipulation 1D as recommended by staff.
Yeah, you got it there.
Right.
Thank you.
Right, and I would, given the staff comment, I would amend my motion regarding the approval of the preliminary plat to include, and this is the one on 1D, correct?
Correct.
To provide a stream buffer zone, no build zone for the riparian area along the existing channel and pond running through the property. Was there some other change to that?
To remove the and pond.
It's to remove and pond out of that stipulation.
We're just removing those
So
two
it would just
words.
say.
Oh, you're just taking the words and pond out. All
Yeah,
right,
so
so my
along
motion,
the existing channel running through the property.
I got you. My motion would then include the removal of the words and pond from 1D.
Do I have a second?
Scott Valentine, I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That's unanimously approved and will go in front of the county commissioners.
That will go before the county commissioners at their February 12th meeting, which is held in this room at 111 South Cherry Street in Olathe, beginning at 9:30 a.m.
Perfect. Thank you. Moving back to the business before the board, we're going to take a look at application number C, item number 3 on the agenda. It's application E25528PP and E25529FPAU, the preliminary and final plat for the southeast corner of 199th Street and Schweitzer. Diane, if you'll give the staff report.
Good evening, Diane Woodland, Planning Department. For this application, the applicant is Phelps Engineering, and the landowner is Brad Hand. The property is located at the southeast corner of 199th Street and Schweitzer Road, as you can see here on the vicinity map. The applicant is proposing to plat a 37-acre parcel into 2 residential lots to be known as the Estates at Whitetail Ridge. The proposed Lot 1 will be 22 acres in size, and Lot 2 will be 10 acres in size. Lot 1 is a corner lot and has an existing entrance onto Schweitzer Road, which will remain. Lot 2 will have a new entrance onto Schweitzer Road, and no new streets are being constructed as part of this plat. And so just to go over a couple of quick graphics here. So this is just an aerial view of the subject property, which is outlined in blue. Here's an aerial view of the surrounding area, also property outlined in blue. And then here's a copy of the preliminary plat. And then here's the final plat. So the minimum infrastructure requirements were reviewed in the staff report. And so in terms of the roads, so Schweitzer Road is a type 1 current route, which has a minimum of 330 feet of street frontage per driveway required. So Lot 22 have 1,033 feet and 453 feet of street frontage onto Schweitzer. So as a result, they do meet that street frontage requirement onto Schweitzer Road. 199th Street, however, is a type 3 current route. Its minimum street frontage is 1,320 feet of street frontage per driveway. That frontage is only 1,020 feet. So as a result, there's access control all along that lot on 199th Street because it does not meet that street frontage requirements. A site distance study was submitted by the applicant and reviewed and accepted by Public Works. In terms of right-of-way dedication, there is Lot 2 will have right-of-way dedication because it's less than 600 feet. And regulations also require minimum 600-foot spacing from intersections. And so you can see that that is also shown on the plat. A stormwater management plan and the stormwater quality management plans were not required for this application because it's not disturbing more than 1 acre of land. In terms of water supply, the property will be served by Water 1 district. There is a fire hydrant providing fire protection to Lot 1. And the applicant is working with Water 1 staff to provide a 12-inch water line, main extension from the intersection of 199th Street and Schweitzer Road going south. And then a new fire hydrant will be installed, which will provide fire protection for Lot 2. So the plat does meet all the subdivision and minimum infrastructure requirements per the regulations. Therefore, staff is recommending approval of the preliminary and final plats for this 2-lot plat, subject to the stipulations that are shown on page 9 and 10. And just to note, we do have a very minor typo to correct as well on stipulation 5C, which is on page 10. And I've just included that in the motion. And it's just to correct it. It says Water District number 7. It's actually Water 1 District is the just clerical error there. And with that, the applicants are here and I'm available for questions.
Thank you, Diane. I appreciate that. Any questions of staff related to this application?
I think you said this, but no traffic study was required for this, was it?
That's correct.
Okay.
Any other questions? Thank you, Diane. Appreciate that. If the applicant's here and like to say a few words.
Hello, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. I'm Mike McGrew from Phelps Engineering. Excited to be here alongside Aaron Phelps, as well as Brett Hand from Whitetail Properties. We just want to say that we are in agreement with the stipulations as they're shown in the staff report, and that we're open and available to any questions you may have. Thanks very much.
Any questions of the applicant? Hearing none. Thank you. Appreciate you being here. Anyone here to have public opinion or comment on this application? Seeing no one, is there anyone on Zoom for this application? We'll go ahead and open and close the public comment section, seeing that there's no comments. Further discussion among the board. For me, this is kind of pretty straightforward and clear. Any other comments?
I agree. I certainly will support this. Just as a general comment, I know obviously with what this is being proposed is not going to put a traffic load on 199th Street, but 199th Street, I think, was probably over capacity back in 2002, and I know they're beginning to move on the improvement of 199th Street on the western side, and they'll eventually, in years to come, get it over here. But you know, as a board member and as someone that uses that road every day, it is clearly over capacity. And any major subdivisions that come up that will be utilizing that road are, you know, certainly going to require some discussion about that. This one is not one of them, however, Mr. Chairman, so I'll support this.
Thank you. Any other comments of the board? Ken, just want to make sure that we're not missing out.
Yeah, you're not missing me. Yeah, I'm good with it. Let's proceed.
All right, do we have a motion?
Mr. Chairman, Rod Richardson, I would move that the board approve application number E25-528-P and E25-529-FP for a preliminary and final plat for 2 residential lots to be known as the Estates of Whitetail Ridge for the reasons and subject to the stipulations recommended by staff and set forth in the staff report, including amending stipulation 5C to state Water District Number 1 instead of Water District Number 7.
Do we have a second?
Scott Valentine, I'll second.
All in favor? Aye. Hearing unanimous opinion, this motion, this application is approved for recommendation to the board, which will be presented.
Thank you. So this will go to the Board of County Commissioners on February 12th, 9:30 a.m. County Administration Building, 111 South Cherry, here in this room.
Thank you, Diane.
Could you record my abstain?
Oh, yes, I apologize. I want to make sure we record, it's looking over to you like you're making notes. I want to make sure that we record that we have one abstention with Fred. All right, final application before us this evening under business review of the board is application number 25533 CUP-AU. It's a conditional use permit for 18845 Lackman Road. Sean? For staff report?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the zoning board, Sean
for that.
Finley, county planning staff. I'll go ahead and pull up the presentation here for this application. Maybe. We had it loaded, now I seem to have lost it. Bear with me just a minute, we'll find it. Okay, yeah, well, yeah. Yeah. Got a few applications for. Okay, hopefully we've got this ready to go. Okay, thank you again, Sean Penley, County Planning staff. This is a request for a conditional use permit to allow a business retreat, including 6 bedrooms, as part of a golf hitting shed on the driving range for Wolf Creek Golf Club. The subject property is located at 18845 Lackman Road, which is generally in the southeast corner of 187th Terrace and Lackman Road. This is the vicinity map showing the site location. This is a portion of the property, if you recall, the driving range south of 187th Street. There is a current conditional use permit for this property that was approved in 2025 for the golf driving range and hitting shed. It's approximately 43 acres of the 76-acre site. So it's basically the north half of this property. Has an existing CUP. The request here is for a new conditional use permit for a business retreat associated with the hitting shed that was approved on the golf driving range. There are other uses on the property, including besides the golf driving range. There is a residential use with a dwelling fronting on Lackman Road that still exists, and also open space on the site. So just for basic description of the proposed development, the applicant is requesting this conditional use permit with a 5-year term for a business retreat use for the golf club. The proposed business retreat would allow overnight stay for members, only members and guests of the golf club. And this is a private golf club, if you recall. The proposed hitting shed is similar to what was previously approved with the CUP that exists in the property. It's a 2-story structure with a total floor area of 4,360 square feet, including 6 bedrooms on the second floor. That's the proposed change that the applicant is asking for. That was not approved with the current CUP. The hitting shed also does include an 800 square foot covered patio and 510 square foot covered entrance, again, consistent with the approved CUP. So this is a more detailed vicinity or a site map showing the existing golf course property north of 187th Terrace, the existing driving range now where there's the CUP approved, and the proposed hitting shed and business retreat is located on that northeast corner of the property that would be adjacent to 187th Terrace. This also does show the existing residential neighborhood to the east of the site. So for the overall site plan, it's exactly the same as what was approved with the current CUP. The driving range has actually been constructed, and so this aerial photo is already outdated, but the applicant has shown here on their proposed site plan the overall layout of the driving range. If you recall, there was a, let's see if I can get the controls going here. There was the golf driving range that is already constructed. There will be I believe the tee boxes, I believe, will be installed, but there is existing cart path in this general location, and the full driving range has all been graded and completed. It actually looks very nice. I've got some photos to show that. And then what will be proposed here is, let's see if I can kind of identify this here. Oh, I don't need necessarily that. Let's try this again. So the proposed hitting shed is in that northeast corner of the site, again, consistent with the approved plan. The only thing that's changing here is the use, which I'll explain a little bit further here. The setback of that proposed hitting shed is 130 feet from the nearest residential property on that east property line. Again, same location, no change in that. And there are existing berms and landscaping that has been installed along that property line, which we'll also show in a minute. So just a basic history of the CUP, it helps in terms of understanding what this existing development is and what is proposed. The original conditional use permit for the Wolf Creek Golf Links was approved in 1982. Actually, the golf club existed prior to that, but the first conditional use permit was approved a year. Our zoning regulations were adopted in the county, 1982. They have had several amendments over the years. There have been at least 3 renewals or amendments to the golf club approved in 2006, 2016, and 2020. Also in 2020, there was a new conditional use permit approved with a 20-year term to allow for a new guest cabin and business retreat on the main golf course property. And that's approximately 3,500 square feet for a guest cabin. So they already do have a business retreat use on the main golf course property. This would be a new business retreat for the hitting shed. So that was in 2025, the most recent CUP approved with a 5-year term for the driving range and hitting shed. So operation details are very similar to what was approved with the current CUP, with the exception that there will now be they would be allowed to have guests stay in the hitting shed. That's the purpose of the business retreat. They do have other associated uses with this that are tied in with the private golf course and the golf club. It's very much connected to the clubhouse and guest cabin on the main property. This would just be an additional space for overflow for when the golf club has events and the main guest cabin is already occupied. This would be an overflow space to allow members of the club to stay there overnight when they have golf events. There are minimal amenities provided in the hitting shed. There's no kitchen or bar. These are just going to be bedrooms with bathrooms and a lounge. All the main activities, as the applicant has explained in their narrative, will occur in the clubhouse or in the guest cabin. This will just be for a place, basically a quiet place for the members to stay who are needing to stay overnight for events. Hours of operation are the same as what was approved with the previous CUP. Summer months generally open at 7 a.m. and operate until 8 p.m. There's no lighting on the hitting range or the driving range, so it'll only be during daylight hours. Winter months generally from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. Maintenance workers may operate outside of those hours as early as 6 a.m. and no later than 10 p.m. just for maintenance purposes. That again is the same as what was approved with the current CUP. This is the detailed site plan for the hitting shed structure, and which shows the golf cart path and entrance off of 187th Street. The applicant is shown here with the location of the setbacks. Somehow I'll get a line in here. 130-foot setback from the east property line. That is, again, consistent with what was approved. The berms and landscaping have all been installed as previously required with the CUP. If you recall, there were some additional standards they had to add for the berms, the landscape berms. They had to provide taller landscaping, taller evergreen trees. The applicant did, in fact, plant those and has created a buffer already for the driving range. Those have been installed. This is, again, just more detailed site plan showing the site plan for the hitting shed and the driving range in that location. Some additional operational details. The hitting shed and business retreat structure will have similar architectural style as the clubhouse. I'll show some elevations, building elevations in a minute. And the hitting shed does consist of the hitting bays that are on the first floor. It does have an outdoor patio on the west side of the building, so away from the residential side. There is an interior open lounge area. There is staff member office. And again, the second floor will allow for the 6 bedrooms and bathrooms for guests. And there is also a laundry room included. These are the proposed building elevations, very consistent with what was previously approved, with the one change. They actually are including a revised dormer on the second floor. It's actually more decorative dormer on that north elevation. That's that top drawing. That's the only change really architecturally. Otherwise, same design, same height, same size of structure, same building materials, again, to be consistent with the clubhouse. And then the bottom elevation is the south elevation facing the driving range with the hitting bays that overhead doors can be opened up for instruction and use for members. The east and west elevations here, the top building elevation is the west elevation with the patio facing towards the driving range. The bottom building elevation is the east elevation facing the residential area. Has more of a residential feel again with the gable roofs and actually very similar architectural style as residential structures. The floor plans are included. This is the first floor showing the hitting bays, lounge area, and patio. And then the second floor plan shows the bedroom units, bathrooms that are attached, laundry room, and lounge area. These bedrooms are approximately 191 square feet, so very small, only intended to have single occupancy in each of these rooms. And we'll get into that as part of the stipulations, but they would only have up to 6 guests staying at any one time in this structure. So we wanted to include some photos, current photos of the driving range. This top photo shows the view looking south from 187th Terrace, showing the existing driving range. It's been graded and actually already established. The bottom drawing here is a view looking towards the southeast, towards the residential area that shows the golf cart path in the foreground, and then looking southeast towards where the hitting shed would be located, and then the berms and trees in the background. Some additional photos. This top photo here is a location of showing the existing landscape berm on the right side there, and the existing trees and residential areas to the left. So this is looking south down along the east property line, showing that berm that's been installed. The bottom photo is a view from the residential area looking back to the west towards the driving range with all the trees again in the background. So as part of the conditional use permit, staff did review the minimum infrastructure requirements, again, consistent with what was previously approved for the existing CUP. Water is provided by Water One in this area. Wastewater is provided by Johnson County Wastewater. There are stipulations included in the CUP for the sewer connection that will need to be provided for the new structure. As far as roads, there were no requirements here for any road improvements because the members are going to park in the existing parking lot at the golf course, and they'll take a golf cart across the street to access the hitting shed and the business retreat. And there will be signage and a crossing installed along 187th Terrace. And there's no increase anticipated for traffic on 187th Street or Lackman Road, since this is already an amenity as part of the existing golf course. This won't be open to the public. The applicant did hold a neighborhood meeting for the proposed CUP, and that was on December 18th. There are approximately 20 neighbors that attended. There were some general questions regarding landscaping and who could be contacted if there are any late night disturbances associated with the business retreat. The applicant did provide responses at the meeting, explaining that the golf clubhouse would be open for any neighbor concerns, and that, again, reiterated that only club members and invited guests would be allowed to stay in the structure, and any disturbances, there would be no disturbances tolerated, and the membership could be revoked if there were issues. Looked at zoning again from the land use impact. This is a zoning map showing the current zoning. The property is zoned RUR with a conditional use permit, and most of the surrounding properties are also RUR, agricultural, with individual large lot residential. There is also the existing RN1 single-family residential neighborhood to the east, but otherwise, generally, it's mostly RUR surrounding the property. So staff also did review the golden criteria, looking at land use impact for this development. Generally, there are other accessory structures allowed in the rural zoning district, and this particular proposed development does have a architectural style that's consistent with the clubhouse and residential style of the neighborhood. The hitting shed would be at least 130 feet away from the nearest residential property. So the staff recommended that the conditional use permit would be appropriate, given that it is consistent with the zoning of nearby properties, subject to the recommended stipulations. In addition, we looked at the compatibility and the character of the surrounding area. Again, the driving range maintains a large open space, and the hitting shed and design will be consistent with the architectural design of the surrounding area. And there have been no known complaints that staff has received from the golf driving range or the business retreat on the existing property. For suitability, the property is zoned RUR. There is an existing CUP that's been approved, and permitted uses, including recreational uses, are allowed with a conditional use permit. For extent of detrimental effects, that was the one that staff did want to look at very carefully here, because this is a different use and it is located close to existing residential. So there are potential detrimental effects that could be associated with this, with the possibility of additional noise from the increased activity with having guests stay on site. But those potential impacts could be mitigated with certain factors, which the applicant has provided some already, with extensive landscape buffering and landscape berms with new trees planted along the adjacent property line to provide a buffer from the residential areas. And there are restrictions for the use of the retreat that is only allowed for members or guests of the club. The length of the time the properties remain vacant, that's not applicable since it's already developed with a golf driving range. Relative gain to the public, there would be minimal, staff believes there'd be minimal gain in denying this request, since the applicant is minimizing the potential impacts with landscaping, architectural design, and should the request be denied, the applicant could still use the hitting shed structure. That is still approved with the current CUP. They just would not be allowed to have a business retreat. But in staff's opinion, there would be no gain to the public by denying this request for the CUP, given the recommended stipulations. And finally, whether the use is in keeping with the comprehensive plan. The rural comprehensive plan indicates this area is a rural policy area with standard density of lots with a minimum 10 acres. This is a recreational use that does have a conditional use permit approved, and the proposed golf hitting shed and business retreat is a compatible use with the surrounding area, provided the recommended stipulations. So I'll get into that here. Staff does recommend approval of this application for a conditional use permit with a 5-year term to allow the 4,360 square foot hitting shed and business retreat, including the 6 bedrooms for guests, subject to stipulations outlined in the report. I did want to highlight a few of those. These are some of the more use-specific stipulations that staff has recommended that's included in the report. This business retreat shall only be available to Wolf Creek Golf Club members and their guests, and shall not be available to the general public. There should be a maximum of 6 guests at any one time occupying the retreat, and there will be no stay for more than 7 consecutive days. And the hours of operation, again, will be consistent with the current CUP, 7 a.m. To 8 p.m., Monday through Sunday, and special events shall not be allowed other than the 7 a.m. or no later than 10 p.m. And the maintenance work, again, no earlier than 6 a.m. or no later than 10 p.m. That's the same stipulation with the current CUP. And as far as the guests, that stipulation is the same as the conditional use permit, the existing conditional use permit for the guest cabin, with the exception, I believe that may have had up to 8 guests, I believe. This is no more than 6. That concludes staff's presentation. I do have a recommended motion included here. The applicant also does have a brief presentation, but with that, I'll be happy to answer any questions for staff.
Thank you, Sean. Quick question. On the Not the most recent conditional use permit, but the conditional use permit where they built the clubhouse with the 8 guests. Was that for 1 or 2 buildings, and has that conditional use permit been completely fulfilled?
Yes.
As in built
for the
out.
existing guest cabin on the main golf course property, that has been constructed and completed, and that is in effect. That CUP was approved in 2020 with a 20-year term, and they do occupy that building now.
And was that for 2 buildings or just 1 building?
I believe
Do
it's
you remember?
one guest cabin.
1 building? Okay,
Yes.
perfect, thank you. Other questions of staff?
Scott Valentine, was there any, I assume this is slab on grade construction?
I believe that is correct. Yeah, no basement.
Was there any consideration, do you guys know, given to like storm shelter? Because it has there's a sleeping element to this, so just curious.
Yeah, good question. That's a question I would have the applicant answer if they could. We did not have that discussion with the applicant in the design. This building, there are stipulations for this building to comply with all mixed-use building codes. That includes residential and commercial. They would be subject to both codes here because they do have mixed use. And the applicant is aware of that, and the building official has had discussions with the applicant, so they are aware of all of the code requirements. But I cannot answer any questions regarding storm shelter. They do, as they mentioned, have a lot of that connection again with the clubhouse. So I would imagine that there's an opportunity for any guest staying here to still also use the clubhouse if needed, but I'll have the applicant address that.
Thank you.
Sean, Fred Wingert, the 5-year term, is the thought process, on the previous, we did 5 years, the other was 20 in 2020. What was the
Yeah.
thought process there?
I think the applicant just requested a 5-year, probably to be consistent with the current CUP for the driving range. It'll be off by about a year because, the current CUP was approved exactly 1 year ago at the beginning of 2025. So it may be off by about a year, but I think that's generally to be consistent with the current CUP on the driving range. They'll have to come back in, of course, for a renewal. If this is approved, they would have to come back in for a renewal in 4 years and request that. And at that time, if there have been no issues, maybe it could be extended where both CUPs could be approved to be consistent with the same term.
Thank you.
Rod Richardson, I think, the building code staff comments more or less address my question. I guess the current fire hydrant isn't close enough, so there's got to be a second fire hydrant within 400 feet. And this is a hard surface turnaround, the Y. I guess really my question goes to if this is, according to this, open in the winter, was there any comment by the fire folks about the method of getting to this? If the fire trucks are parked in the Y, but they don't have direct hard surface access to the building, if there's, a foot of snow on the ground, I mean, is that, their access would be presumably the snow-covered cart paths. I'm just curious if that concerned anybody.
I am not aware of any concerns from the fire district or our building official regarding access. I think that entrance that is existing today off of 187th Street is pretty considerable, and I would imagine would have plenty of access for emergency access. That was a discussion. The applicant, again, could probably answer this better, but there was a discussion with the building official about emergency access, and they did satisfy those concerns, if I recall. They had, the building official and fire district had no concerns about ingress or egress to the proposed structure. And with the stipulation that the fire hydrant is installed according to the stipulation.
Right. My only, if it meets the code, it meets the code. My only concern there would be the probably limited possibility that extricating somebody out of there with that distance, because you have to get back and forth to the fire trucks, you've got to stretch hoses. But if I was there and I had a heart attack and they had to carry me out in the snow, it may not be that easy. But I just raised the question as to whether it was discussed. You've answered that it was, or at least was considered. The only other question I have is exterior lighting on this building.
Yeah, that was a good question. The lighting is not changing from what was currently approved with the CUP. That is minimal lighting. There would be some wall-mounted light fixtures on the building that are down fixtures, no additional lighting. So it was the same lighting specs as what was approved with the current CUP. And the only other site lighting would be bollards that may be located along the golf cart path for path lighting only. Again, I think they're 48 inches in height. It'd be low down lighting. No other lighting would be provided on the golf driving range with this
Right.
proposal.
So there wouldn't be any lighting on this building that would be directed off-site? It would all be down lighting?
Only down lighting, and we have the fixtures that were submitted as part of this are down fixtures with shields.
Thank you.
Any other questions, staff? Sean, I want to commend you on whether it was your initiative or the staff's initiative or the applicants, but to have the neighborhood information meeting included on page 5 as well as the responses, that really addressed the concerns I had of the neighbors being aware and what was going on. So I know in the past we've talked about really including the folks that are there and have meetings and have applicants do that. And I think this is a great illustration of that happening. So I want to thank you for that, as well as I believe the berm in the illustration is truly a berm when we talk about berms versus sometimes what applicants tend to do. So I also respect that. So I just wanted to give you those comments. Thank you. That'll conclude our staff presentation. Applicant, if you'd like to speak.
Thank you, Sean. Mr. Chairman, members of the board, my name is Will Dubois, Davidson Architecture and Engineering. I believe it was almost exactly a year ago we were discussing this project. And so some elements are probably very familiar, and that's actually part of what I want to walk through. Our goal basically is to keep things, if you didn't know we had this meeting and you were driving by, you would have had no idea that there was a change. That's kind of the impact that we want to have, both visually and also and this project represents Wolf Creek continuing their investment in the driving range and the golf course and the area as they continue to work towards being one of the best golf courses in the region and America. And this is a big step forward. Adding this ability for out-of-town or even in-town guests to stay out at Wolf Creek during events is a big bonus. There is that existing cabin, and I think that's a great talking point because so far there have been no complaints. The stipulations that we agreed to are some safeguards for the neighborhood, and we feel like that's been adequate for that existing cabin, and that will do the same here. So moving into it, as you can see, I mean, the site is essentially the same. As far as fire access, we had those discussions initially. With people staying there, there will be additional protections built in that the code will require for the building itself. Also, I will say in the wintertime, Wolf Creek, now it's been pretty nice recently, but Wolf Creek kind of shuts down. There's not really big events or anything like that, so people won't be staying here at least as much in the wintertime, so I think that risk is reduced. To get out there, you'd be taking a golf cart, so presumably, if someone has a heart attack or something, you'd kind of be able to access that same way. But the location of that wide turnaround, the design of it all, that was designed in conjunction with the fire marshal to make sure that we were giving them what they felt was adequate access. And we do have to move that fire hydrant to make sure it's within distance too. Those berms are definitely substantial and they look great out there. I'd almost call them a hill, really, honestly. And they're going to look even more impressive this year as we have another growing season with even taller grass. So I think those are going to do a great job. It's almost unfortunate. I think that building looks good and people won't be able to see it over there. But so I want to do a side-by-side, just really briefly kind of, again, hit home that this is substantially similar. If you didn't know that we had these meetings and you drove by, you probably wouldn't know that we changed the use or added use to it at all. You can see that there's an additional dormer for one more room on this facade right here. The lighting that was shown in the original one is still there. The same high quality materials and elements are there. And again, on this side, the patio is staying on that same side. There's been some design refinement to the roof a little bit, adding that second story window. That was kind of done regardless actually of this additional use, but to just, again, make it look even nicer than what had originally been proposed. So again, it looks substantially similar. For the neighbors, we want it to function substantially similar. And it's just, again, another great investment by Wolf Creek into the course in the area. And with that, we have some additional members that are here to answer questions, or I'm happy to answer questions about the design or how things will function. Thank you.
There's no one here. Anyone here for public comment? Didn't believe so. Okay, so we'll open and close the public comment section. Discussion among the board. I think the project's well done. Again, I really respect the time spent to have the meetings with the residents and have that done ahead of time as opposed to this venue, having those discussions occur. It's something that we've kind of been striving for in all the applicants, so thank you for being the one that helped set that stage for us. Anyone else?
Fred Wingert, I agree, Mr. Chairman. Hopefully it'll be open by the World Cup because we got 200,000 people with no idea where they're going to sleep. So maybe six of them can sleep out there. That's all.
Rod Richardson. No, I think it's fine. I always have concerns about fire safety, as I'm sure you do too. Obviously, it would be nice if there were hard surface right up to the front door, but the fire code does not require that specifically. So as far as I'm concerned, that and the exterior lighting were the two main concerns that I had. I drive by Wolf Creek because I live just off of 199th Street. So literally I'm not a direct neighbor, but it's always been a very, to me at least, a very impressive neighbor out there. Well run, well operated, and certainly a wonderful golf course from those that I hear that can play golf. Those that can't play golf don't seem to like it very much, but nevertheless, I think it's a great addition out there. I don't see any negatives from this, quite frankly. So I'm certainly in support of it. I think they've made a great case for it.
Anyone else?
I would agree with everything that has been said.
It's a great project, and years ago when I teed off out there, they handed me a chainsaw with my driver and told me good luck. So I live out that way, and it's been a good neighbor in the area, and it's been a good subdivision.
Perfect. All right, do we have a motion?
Fred Wingert, Mr. Chairman. Planning staff recommends approval of the conditional use permit of 5 years to allow a 4,360 square foot hitting shed and business retreat, including 6 bedrooms for guests on the driving range for Wolf Creek Golf, subject to stipulations. The business retreat shall only be available to Wolf Creek Golf members and their guests and shall not be available to the general public. There should be a maximum of 6 guests. I didn't think it was right. I just read it. I move a conditional use permit for the term of 5 years to allow 4,360 square foot hitting shed and business retreat, including 6 bedrooms associated with the Wolf Creek Golf Club, in accordance with the development plan for the reasons and subject to stipulations recommended by staff. Was there one change about the water district, or was that the last?
That was the last one.
Okay. Thank you.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Valentine, a second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, this has been approved for recommendation to the county commissioners, which will go as well in February.
Yes, that's correct, Mr. Chairman. This item will be heard by the Board of County Commissioners at the meeting on February 12th at 9:30 a.m. in this board hearing. Thank you.
All right, that concludes the business before the board. Do we have any other business?
Mr. Chairman, Fred Wingert, I know there's a lot of talk about fire, and I think sometimes it seems a little overboard that we do this. In our neighborhood on Sunday, we had a fire. It was a very large home per Rod's comments. The fire department responded. There must have been 10 fire trucks on our street. It was a chimney fire. They got it put out, but I think all the discussions that we have, I mean, these are real things that happen on a regular basis, and we had it front and center in our neighborhood. So thank you, Rod, for bringing it up. Thank you for the staff that looks into all this stuff, public works staff that looks into this, fire safety. and all that, but it does really happen. Thank you.
And I'll add only in that, we all know this, but I served as chair of Johnson County Fire District Number 2 for like 22 or 23 years. I got to know the firemen, got to know what they can do, what they can't do, what equipment they need. And I tend to look at these things from the standpoint that, if you had firefighters here looking at this, the people that actually do the life-saving and risk their life to go in and do this will look at some of these and they start adding up in their heads the factor of difficulty or difficulty factor, and the further you have to go from the heavy equipment to the point of the fire, the more difficult it becomes. Stretching fire hoses out for long distances creates the potential breaches of the hose with pressure issues, distance to the fire hydrants, it's in all these things, obviously materials, but those are all in the fire code. So from a developer standpoint, you meet the fire code but the reality of it is, you're out in the more rural areas and, when things go wrong, you depend on these guys, these people, your neighbors who are the firefighters, come in and do their job. And, we always want to have the best trained folks using the best equipment to get there in the shortest possible time. So I do think that when these applications come up, and I'm not just referring to this one, but any of them where, some of these questions could be asked, it'd be nice to have some specific comments from the fire department if they see an issue that we should consider, even if it's not in the fire code, at least asking an applicant if they would consider doing something that might make firefighting easier should the worst happen. Although it couldn't be required, but most people are just simply not even aware of a small change in a design can make a huge difference in the success of saving somebody's life. So anyway, that's why I think, and I know we all think of it, but I heard the stories for 22, 23 years, and little things can make a huge difference if there's a problem. So that's the basis of my comment.
Thank you. Any other comments before we adjourn? Motion to adjourn? Second?
All right, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
You turn it on and it's green, but this is red. So
Yeah, I think it was